I arrived at the office that morning feeling the usual mix of anticipation and focus. The city outside was just waking up, streets buzzing with the first rush of commuters, and I was already running through the day's agenda in my mind. I had just wrapped up a major project last week, a campaign that had exceeded expectations and drawn praise from several clients. It was a good feeling, one I hoped would reflect well on my standing here. But the moment I stepped into the building, something felt off. The usual hum of conversation was replaced by an uneasy silence, and as I made my way to my desk, I noticed my manager, Mr. Reynolds, waiting just outside the conference room. His expression was unreadable, neither welcoming nor hostile, but something in his eyes suggested this wasn't going to be a routine check-in. "Michelle, can you come with me for a moment?" he said, his voice steady but carrying a weight I hadn't heard before. I followed him down the hallway, heart tightening with each step. We entered the conference room, empty except for a few chairs around the table. Mr. Reynolds closed the door behind us, and I braced myself. "Michelle, I want to talk about your position here," he began, folding his hands on the table. "Effective immediately, you're being reassigned to a different role. It's a demotion." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "A demotion?" I echoed, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I don't understand. I just finished the Harper project, and the feedback was positive. What's changed?" He looked down, not meeting my eyes. "It's a decision from upper management. I don't have all the details, but it's final." I sat down heavily, the weight of disbelief pressing down on me. This had to be a mistake. I replayed every interaction I'd had recently, nothing out of the ordinary, no conflicts, no missed deadlines. Just hard work and late nights. But now, without explanation, my role was being stripped away. As the minutes passed, I felt a knot of confusion and frustration twist inside me. Why me? Who could want this? The office felt colder, the walls closing in as I tried to piece together what had gone wrong. Walking back to my desk, I caught a glimpse of a few colleagues exchanging quick glances before turning away. The whispers were already starting, the kind that spread like wildfire in an environment where uncertainty breeds suspicion. I sensed that this demotion wasn't just a matter of business, it was personal. I sat down and stared at my computer screen, the familiar glow offering little comfort. My mind drifted back over the years I'd spent at the company. I had started here fresh out of college, eager and determined to prove myself. I'd weathered the late nights, the challenging clients, the endless meetings. Each promotion felt like a milestone, a recognition of my effort. And now, this. A sudden, unexplained demotion that threatened to unravel everything I'd built. I tried to focus on the tasks in front of me, but the questions kept circling. Had I made a mistake somewhere? Was there something I'd overlooked? Or was someone else behind this, someone threatened by my recent success? I remembered the subtle tension that had crept in over the past few weeks. Small comments from coworkers that didn't quite sit right, a few closed-door meetings that didn't include me, and the way certain people seemed to avoid eye contact. It was as if a shadow had fallen over my work life, one I hadn't noticed until now. I glanced toward the break room where a few team members were gathered, their laughter muted and conversations hushed as I passed. I felt isolated, like an outsider in a place I once called my professional home. Yet beneath the hurt and confusion, a spark of determination ignited. I wasn't going to let this slide without understanding why. If someone had tried to undermine me, I would find out who and why. If this was a mistake, I would fight to set it right. But first, I had to get through the day. Sitting back at my desk, I opened my email and scanned through the usual messages, client updates, internal memos, invitations to meetings. Nothing unusual. Yet the silence around me was deafening. The office atmosphere had shifted, colleagues who once greeted me warmly now offered only brief nods or avoided me altogether. I remembered the last conversation I'd had with Mr. Reynolds, just days before. He'd seemed supportive, even optimistic about the direction of the Harper project. I wondered if that had changed behind closed doors. I decided to reach out to a few trusted coworkers, hoping to gain some insight. My first message was to Sarah, a friend in the IT department who had always been discreet and supportive. I typed a quick note, careful not to reveal too much, asking if she'd noticed anything unusual with the company's internal systems or communications lately. As I sent the message, I couldn't shake the feeling that this demotion was only the surface of a deeper problem. Someone had to be orchestrating this, and if I was to reclaim my position, I needed to uncover the truth. The afternoon dragged on, the usual hum of productivity replaced by a tense quiet. I watched as the office dynamics shifted around me, whispers, sidelong glances, and the subtle distance people put between themselves and me. I thought back to the days when I'd been new here, uncertain but full of hope. The path had never been easy, but I'd faced challenges head-on and earned my place. Now, that place was slipping away without explanation. At one point, I found myself staring out the window, the city sprawling beneath me, indifferent to my troubles. The world outside moved forward, oblivious to the upheaval within these walls. I reminded myself that I wasn't alone. I'd built relationships here, allies who valued my work and character. I just had to find them again. As the workday came to a close, I gathered my things slowly, trying to remain composed. The demotion wasn't just a change of title or responsibilities, it felt like a betrayal, a blow to my professional identity. Walking out of the building, the evening air was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. I knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions, and the need for answers. But despite the uncertainty, I felt a quiet resolve settling in. I had dedicated years to this company, and I wasn't about to let it be taken away without a fight. Somewhere beneath the surface of this unjust decision was a truth waiting to be uncovered, and I was determined to find it. The next morning, I walked into the office with a mix of determination and apprehension. The sting of yesterday's demotion still lingered, but I was resolved to get some answers. My first move was to confront Mr. Reynolds directly. If he could at least give me a reason, some clarity, maybe I could start to navigate this mess. I found him near the coffee machine, chatting with a couple of managers. When he saw me, his expression tightened slightly. "Michelle," he said, forcing a polite smile. "Good morning." "Mr. Reynolds," I began, trying to keep my tone calm and professional, "I need to understand why I was demoted. I've given my best to the company, and I deserve to know what changed." He shifted uncomfortably, glancing around as if searching for an escape route. "Like I said yesterday, it's a decision from higher up. I don't have the specifics. You'll be informed when they're ready." I pressed on. "But I've always been transparent with my work. There's no reason to treat me this way." His silence was my answer. No explanation. No chance to defend myself. As the day wore on, the whispers grew louder. I caught snippets of conversation, questions I wasn't privy to, rumors swirling like a storm. Some colleagues avoided me altogether, their eyes flickering away when I passed. Others whispered behind closed doors, the faintest trace of pity or suspicion in their voices. The office, once a place of camaraderie, now felt like a maze of cold corridors and guarded faces. I couldn't afford to break down. Instead, I focused on maintaining my professionalism, answering emails with precision, and attending meetings with quiet resolve. But beneath it all, the isolation gnawed at me. During lunch, I made my way to the IT department, a place where I had a friend I trusted, Sarah. She was a few years younger, sharp-minded, and always had a way of seeing things others missed. I found her tucked behind multiple monitors, headphones on, typing rapidly. "Sarah," I called softly, not wanting to startle her. She looked up, surprised but pleased to see me. "Michelle, hey. How are you holding up?" she asked, concern flickering in her eyes. "Honestly, it's been rough," I admitted. "I've been demoted with no explanation, and the office is different now. People are avoiding me, and I don't know why." She nodded, understanding. "That sounds awful. Have you thought about looking into the company's records? Sometimes, the digital footprint tells a story that people try to hide." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean like emails or project files?" "Exactly. I can help you check for anything unusual, changes, deletions, anything that might point to sabotage." The idea both excited and unnerved me. If someone had tampered with my work or communications, finding out would be a game changer. Would you do that? Discreetly? Sarah smiled faintly. Of course. Just give me some time. Over the next few days, she worked quietly behind the scenes. I kept my head down, watching the office dynamics shift. The rumors took on new shapes. Some whispered that I'd mishandled clients, others that I'd been careless with data. None of it was true, but the damage was palpable. Sarah's updates came in small fragments, nothing definitive at first, but subtle signs of irregularities. A few emails missing from my sent folder, project documents altered without explanation, login records showing unusual access times. One afternoon, she called me into a small conference room. "I found something," she said, her voice low. "Look at this." She pulled up a series of logs and email histories on her laptop. "See here?" She pointed to timestamps and user IDs. "Someone accessed your project files late at night, changed key data points, then deleted emails related to those changes. And it wasn't you." I stared at the screen, disbelief turning into a cold rush of clarity. "Who?" "That's the tricky part," Sarah admitted. "The access came from a managerial account. Someone with high-level permissions." My mind raced. Who in management would want to harm me? The thought of betrayal stung sharply. Sarah leaned closer. "If we can trace this back, you might have the evidence you need to challenge the demotion." I nodded, a mix of hope and anxiety swelling inside me. This wasn't just about restoring my position anymore. It was about exposing a scheme that went deeper than I'd imagined. Over the next few days, Sarah continued her investigation, peeling back layers of digital obfuscation. She found altered email threads, falsified reports, and even attempts to rewrite project outcomes. Each discovery painted a clearer picture of sabotage designed to discredit me. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in the office grew tenser. Colleagues who once offered polite smiles now crossed the hall rather than pass me. Some whispered that I was under investigation, though no official word had come. The isolation was suffocating, but I clung to Sarah's findings as a lifeline. One afternoon, I confronted a few coworkers discreetly, trying to gauge if anyone had noticed unusual behavior from the management side. Most denied knowledge, but one junior team member hesitated before admitting she'd overheard a heated conversation between Mr. Reynolds and a senior executive, discussing handling the Carter situation. The pieces were falling into place, but the full picture remained frustratingly out of reach. I realized that to fight this, I needed more than just evidence, I needed allies. I began reaching out cautiously, sharing bits of what Sarah had uncovered with trusted colleagues. Some were shocked, others skeptical, but a few offered quiet support. Each day was a careful balancing act, maintaining professionalism while navigating an office that had become a minefield of suspicion and fear. One evening, as I packed up to leave, Sarah stopped me. "Michelle, be careful. Whoever is behind this has power and isn't afraid to use it." Her warning echoed my own fears. But I couldn't back down now. Not when the truth was within reach. As I walked out into the night, the city lights flickering against the dark sky, I felt the weight of the battle ahead. I didn't know who was orchestrating this or why, but I was determined to uncover every secret, expose every lie, and reclaim my name. The fight was just beginning, and I was ready to see it through. A few days after Sarah had pulled together the most damning pieces of evidence, I found myself sitting in a sterile conference room, the tension thick enough to choke on. The room was small, with a long table and cold fluorescent lights humming overhead. Across from me sat Mr. Reynolds, his jaw tight, eyes flicking nervously toward the door every so often. Beside him were two senior managers I barely recognized, their expressions unreadable. And then, at the far end, Sarah quietly took her seat, her laptop open and ready. I took a deep breath and began. "I've reviewed the evidence Sarah uncovered. It's clear that someone manipulated my project files and emails to discredit me. I'm here to present that evidence and ask for a fair review." Mr. Reynolds shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Michelle, we appreciate your initiative, but this is a serious accusation. Do you have concrete proof? Sarah clicked a few keys, and the screen projected detailed logs of file access, email alterations, and timestamps that didn't align with my known working hours. This, she said, pointing to a highlighted entry, shows unauthorized access to Michelle's project files at 2:17 a.m. on multiple occasions. The access was traced back to a managerial account belonging to Mr. Carter's department. I felt a flicker of vindication. These changes weren't made by me, and the deleted emails were critical to my project's success. Someone tampered with my work to manufacture mistakes and justify this demotion. One of the senior managers leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Have you identified who had access to that account at those times? Sarah nodded. Yes. The account is assigned to Mr. Reynolds. The access logs show it was used from his workstation during those hours. The room fell silent. Mr. Reynolds' face paled, his composure faltering. That's impossible. I was home those nights. But the logs prove otherwise, I said, voice steady. Either someone else used your credentials, or you're not being truthful. Mr. Reynolds swallowed hard, his gaze darting toward the door as if seeking an escape. The senior managers exchanged glances, and I realized this was bigger than just a simple demotion, it was a cover-up. Sarah continued, additionally, we found email threads that were altered to portray Michelle as negligent and careless, directly contradicting client feedback. Those emails were sent from accounts linked to your management team. One of the senior managers, a woman with sharp eyes, finally spoke. This is serious. If these allegations are true, it's a breach of trust in company policy. I nodded, trying to keep my emotions in check. I've documented everything since the demotion, the rumors, the isolation, the tampering. I want a thorough investigation. My reputation and career depend on it. The woman tapped her pen thoughtfully. We'll initiate a formal inquiry immediately. Mr. Reynolds, you'll be placed on administrative leave pending the outcome. Mr. Reynolds' face twisted with a mixture of anger and defeat. This is a witch hunt. You have no proof I did anything wrong. But we do have evidence of wrongdoing, the senior manager replied firmly. And this behavior cannot be tolerated. As the meeting ended, I felt a surge of relief mingled with exhaustion. After weeks of uncertainty and isolation, the truth was finally coming to light. Outside the conference room, Sarah gave me a small, encouraging smile. You did it, Michelle. You stood up and faced it. I returned the smile, though the weight of what lay ahead was still heavy. This wasn't just about clearing my name anymore, it was about exposing a deep betrayal within the company's leadership. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the office shifted noticeably. Word spread about the investigation, and colleagues who had once avoided me began offering tentative words of support. The whispered rumors lost their venom, replaced by cautious acknowledgement of the injustice I'd endured. I received emails from clients reaffirming their satisfaction with my work, and even some coworkers apologized for their silence. It was a slow thawing of the cold front that had settled around me. Meanwhile, Sarah and I continued to gather additional evidence, ensuring the investigation was thorough. We found more instances of data manipulation, unauthorized access, and attempts to cover up emails that contradicted the false narrative Mr. Reynolds had tried to build. One evening, as I reviewed the growing dossier of evidence, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Mr. Reynolds had been my manager, someone I respected and trusted. To discover he was behind the sabotage was a hard pill to swallow. Yet, amidst the pain, there was clarity. I knew now that this wasn't a simple misunderstanding or an unfortunate mistake. It was a calculated effort to destroy me. The company's leadership faced a crossroads. They could either protect a corrupt manager or uphold their commitment to fairness and integrity. I was determined to see which path they would choose. A formal announcement soon followed. Mr. Reynolds was suspended pending further investigation. The company promised a full review of the situation and assured employees that measures would be taken to prevent similar incidents. For the first time in weeks, I felt a cautious optimism. The scales of justice were tipping, and my side of the story was being heard. Yet, the road ahead remained uncertain. I still had to navigate the fallout, rebuild trust, and prove that my dedication had never wavered. As I packed up my desk one evening, Sarah approached. "You've handled this with incredible strength," she said quietly. "Most people would have folded under the pressure." I shook my head. I couldn't let this go. Not just for me, but for everyone else who might face something like this. She smiled. "We're going to make sure the company learns from this." I looked out the window at the city lights shimmering against the night. The battle wasn't over, but the truth was finally on my side. And that made all the difference. The days that followed the announcement of Mr. Reynolds' suspension felt like a tentative awakening. The office atmosphere shifted subtly but palpably, no longer tense and cold, but cautious and expectant. Conversations resumed with a new openness, and I could sense that some of the invisible barriers between me and my colleagues were beginning to crumble. It was as if the air itself had changed, carrying with it the promise of justice and accountability. I arrived early one morning to find Sarah waiting by the elevator, her usual calm demeanor tinged with a rare excitement. "Good news," she said, holding up her phone. "The internal affairs team has started a full investigation into the misconduct, and they're reviewing all the evidence we compiled." I nodded, feeling a surge of relief. This is what we've been working toward. It's a critical step. She smiled. And the best part? They're implementing new policies to prevent this kind of abuse in the future, stronger controls on account access, better oversight, and an anonymous reporting system for employees. For the first time since the ordeal began, I felt hope, not just for myself, but for the company as a whole. The steps being taken suggested a commitment to fairness and transparency, a chance to rebuild trust that had been broken. Throughout the week, I noticed small but meaningful changes. Managers held open forums to discuss workplace ethics, and HR circulated reminders about the importance of integrity. People who had once kept their distance now approached me with genuine concern and support, offering apologies for their earlier silence. One afternoon, my friend and colleague, David, stopped by my desk. "Michelle, I just want to say I'm sorry for not standing up sooner. This whole thing caught me off guard, and I didn't know what to believe." I appreciated his honesty. "It wasn't easy for any of us," I replied. "But it means a lot to have your support now." David smiled. "We're all in this together." Sarah's role in uncovering the truth became widely recognized. The IT department received commendations, and Sarah herself was quietly praised for her discretion and dedication. Her partnership had been invaluable, and I was grateful beyond words. As the investigation progressed, the company began taking disciplinary actions against those involved in the misconduct. It was a sobering reminder of how deep the betrayal had run, but also a necessary step toward healing. I could see the ripple effects throughout the organization. The message was clear: unethical behavior would not be tolerated, regardless of rank or influence. One afternoon, I was invited to a meeting with senior leadership. The room was filled with familiar faces, some of whom had been distant during the crisis but now looked genuinely interested in making amends. The CEO addressed the group with a tone of sincerity that caught me off guard. "We deeply regret what happened to Michelle and the impact it had on his career and well-being. We are committed to learning from this and ensuring our workplace fosters respect, fairness, and accountability." He went on to outline a series of initiatives designed to strengthen company culture, including regular ethics training, enhanced oversight mechanisms, and a task force dedicated to employee welfare. I listened carefully, appreciating the steps being taken but also aware that words alone wouldn't erase the damage. Trust would need to be rebuilt over time, through consistent actions and transparency. After the meeting, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This experience had tested me in ways I hadn't imagined, but it had also revealed the strength of my convictions and the importance of standing up for what's right. Back at my desk, I took a moment to reflect on the journey. From the shock of the demotion to the painstaking process of uncovering the truth, and now toward a path of restoration and change. The ordeal had left scars, yes, but it had also forged a deeper resilience within me. That evening, Sarah and I stayed late, reviewing the final reports from the investigation. As we closed the files, she looked up and said, "You've handled everything with incredible grace, Michelle. I know it hasn't been easy." I smiled tiredly. It wasn't just me. I had you and a few others who believed in the truth. That made all the difference. She nodded. This experience will change the company for the better. I'm glad you stood your ground. Walking home that night, I felt a quiet satisfaction. The fight for justice was far from over, but the tides were turning. The company was taking responsibility, and I was beginning to reclaim my place within it. In the weeks that followed, I noticed a gradual restoration of normalcy. My workload returned to its previous scope, and the trust of clients and colleagues slowly mended. The support from management grew more genuine, and I was invited to participate in initiatives aimed at improving workplace culture. One afternoon, as I prepared for a team meeting, my phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line read, "Promotion and Recognition." I hesitated before opening it, heart pounding. The message was clear and affirming. I was being reinstated to my original position with a formal apology from company leadership, acknowledging the injustice I had faced. A wave of relief and validation washed over me. The recognition wasn't just about the title or salary, it was an acknowledgement of my dedication, integrity, and perseverance. I shared the news with Sarah, who grinned widely. "You earned this. No one can take that away from you." The experience had been a crucible, testing my resolve and character. But in the end, it reaffirmed my belief that standing up for justice matters, even when the odds seem stacked against you. As I settled back into my role, I carried with me a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to fostering an environment where fairness and respect prevailed. The road ahead was still filled with challenges, but I faced it with confidence, knowing that truth and integrity could prevail even in the toughest of battles. The morning I received the official reinstatement email, the office felt different, lighter, more open. As I read through the message, the formal apology from the company leadership settled over me like a balm, soothing months of uncertainty and pain. They recognized the injustice I had endured, acknowledged the damage done, and promised a commitment to fairness moving forward. It wasn't just about regaining my position, it was about reclaiming my dignity and the trust one had built over the years. Walking into the office that day, I felt a quiet confidence I hadn't experienced since before the demotion. Colleagues greeted me with genuine smiles, some even stopping to shake my hand or offer congratulations. The whispers had turned into words of respect, and the subtle distance I'd felt had dissolved into a renewed sense of camaraderie. Settling back into my role as senior account manager, I was reminded of why I had chosen this career in the first place: the challenge, the relationships, the opportunity to make a difference. The projects were demanding, the deadlines tight, but I approached each task with a renewed vigor fueled by the trials I had overcome. In the weeks that followed, I found myself reflecting on the journey, how quickly things had spiraled, the sting of betrayal, the loneliness of suspicion, and finally, the slow but steady climb back toward justice. It wasn't easy. There were moments when the weight of it all felt unbearable, when the silence around me was deafening. But I had learned something invaluable: the importance of standing firm, of seeking allies, and of documenting the truth no matter how difficult. Sarah remained a steadfast ally throughout. Her quiet strength and sharp mind had been crucial in uncovering the evidence that turned the tide. We continued to collaborate, not just on work but on fostering a workplace culture where integrity was valued and protected. One afternoon, as I walked past the now empty desk that had once belonged to Mr. Reynolds, I paused. The absence was a stark reminder of the consequences of deceit and the price of ambition gone awry. Yet, it also symbolized the triumph of truth over manipulation. I allowed myself a small, private nod of satisfaction. Justice had prevailed, not with spectacle or drama, but with persistence and quiet resolve. The experience had taught me that revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it whispers through the careful gathering of facts, the steady refusal to be silenced, and the unwavering belief in one's own worth. I found strength in the knowledge that my integrity had remained intact, even when others tried to tear it down. I began to mentor newer team members, sharing lessons not just about the work itself but about navigating the complexities of office politics and standing up for what's right. I encouraged them to build their own networks of trust and to document their work meticulously. If my story could help even one person avoid the pain I endured, it would be worth it. One evening, after a particularly successful client presentation, I sat alone in my office, the city lights twinkling beyond the window. I thought about the journey, the setbacks, the betrayals, the alliances, and felt a profound sense of closure. The road had been rocky, but it had shaped me into a stronger, wiser professional. I knew challenges would come again, life rarely offers a smooth path. But I also knew I was better equipped to face them. The ordeal had reinforced my belief that honesty and loyalty are the bedrock of any career and that when those values are tested, standing firm is the only way forward. As I shut down my computer and prepared to leave for the night, I glanced once more at the empty desk across the room. It was a silent testament to how truth, no matter how carefully hidden, eventually finds its way to the surface. I stepped into the hallway, ready to face whatever came next, carrying with me the quiet strength of someone who had been tested and had come through with their integrity unbroken. The story wasn't just about a demotion or an investigation, it was about resilience, justice, and the enduring power of truth. And in that, I found my peace.